Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh, the home of powerful conversations. I'm Elliot Reeves, and my guest today is Shaun Alexander. Shaun is one of Scotland's leading vloggers, having built a prominent personal brand across multiple platforms. Your YouTube videos alone have had well in excess of 4 million views, and your content has more than 100,000 monthly engagements. You vlog about travel, adventure, lifestyle, Scotland, and television programme Outlander, and you've recently launched your own community and clothing line named after your ethos, Adventure Everything. You're also a social media marketer, copywriter, content creator and strategist, working with brands to create content and develop a content strategy across channels including Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Shaun, it's absolutely brilliant to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here. What a great setting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I've, dipped in and out of your vlogs for a long time, and
awesome.
Some great stuff. Really enjoy it.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, if we can start, I suppose, with your kind of early life, where you grew up, and generally just what your life was like then.
Yeah. So my background, I'm an Edinburgh boy, born and bred, probably like yourself.
Yeah.
I was born in the west end of Edinburgh, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Stenhouse, which is a community close to Tynecastle, Heart Stadium, which was my boyhood football team when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It was a great neighbourhood. It was kind of rough and ready.
Okay.
Very close to like the Muir House and all that kind of areas, and it was a great place to live, but it had its troubles as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent the good part of my early years there, for probably the first 12 years of my life actually, and the kind of friendships that I made there were a good starting place, I think, for life in Edinburgh, and it was just a great place to grow up. And yeah, that was my early days, I guess. If we want to go right to the very beginning, I was born in Scotland, but my dad's actually from South Africa, and
really?
I spent the first 2 years. I was born here, stayed for 6 months, went to South Africa for 2 years, and then we decided to come back again as a family. So
wow.
A bit of a travelling beginning in life, even though I don't really necessarily remember it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it obviously stuck with you.
Yeah.
I
mean, the fact that I was there is in my mind, but I don't really have any memory of it.
Got you. Yeah. So how would you describe yourself as a person, when you were kind of growing up?
I was shy yet confident, I would say.
Interesting.
I guess when I was meeting people for the first time, I was often quite shy. I think I'm probably more of a reserved person when I was young. I was a reserved child, like I would just kind of keep to my own and observe before I kind of put myself out there, if you like. But I was ambitious as well. I was an ambitious young lad. I wanted to play for Hearts.
Seriously?
Yeah, I wanted to be a football player. That was my ambition when I was younger, but I was never talented in that department, if you like.
Right, okay.
Not for the want to try and though.
Yeah.
I used to follow the Hearts team around. They used to train in Stockton, at Stockton Park.
Yeah.
When I was that age. I don't know where they train nowadays, but that's where they were, and I used to follow them around, follow the players, seeing if I could get any friends and get my way into the team somehow. That was my dream. I was like 8-year-old running around after the Hearts players, but
brilliant.
That was my upbringing. Stenhouse, Stockton. It was a great place. I really had some great memories and friendships from there. People that I know until now. But yeah.
So what did you do when you left school? And what were your sort of career aspirations at that stage?
It was interesting because I was a terrible student. Like, I'm one of the world's worst students. I absolutely hated school with a passion, with a vengeance. As soon as high school was over, I wanted to get out. Like, I just wanted to leave and do my own thing. Mm-hmm. I really disliked studying. I disliked the school systems as well. I think they were really just not very inspiring places. I knew that I was a storyteller, even at that age.
Seriously?
One thing I liked to do was actually write. I was a good writer. I was a shocking handwriter. My handwriting, nobody could read it, but I was a good writer. I could tell stories.
Like creative writing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was the one area I knew I was good at, but it was never necessarily brought out in me. So that was a kind of burning passion I had in my background, and I always wanted to do something with that. But I was 16 and I was out of school, and my mum and dad were like, "What now? What are you going to do? You're going to go to university?" Or I didn't have the grades for university, to be quite frank, so it wasn't an option. So I just decided to go for it. I need to get a job, right? I think my first few jobs were in supermarkets. I just hustled as hard as I could, doing different things, and then I don't know how this happened, but I was taken on by an accountancy firm in Edinburgh as a trainee auditor, and I was 17-year-old. And it was, they said at the time it was an experiment. They wanted to see if they could, rather than take a university graduate, they wanted to take someone who was 17 and see if they could train them over the 4-year period that somebody would usually spend at university. And I was getting paid, and see what would happen. So that was my first real job, if you like, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the experiences. Like, it was quite clear to me early on, within the first year or two, that I never ever wanted to be an accountant. Yeah, it was just not me at all. But at the end of the day, my family were quite proud. They're like, how the hell did you get a job in an accountancy firm as a trainee auditor? You're like 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know to this day. Like, the only thing I could say is I've always been a good interviewer, even at that age. So I probably blagged my way in a little bit.
Okay.
So that was my first job. But as I said to you before, I knew I was a good writer, and I knew I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was working at the accountancy firm, I did everything I could to try and start a career in journalism.
Okay.
That's where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that would allow me to write, be creative, tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I would often contact publications, whether it was niche interest publications or newspapers, and try and basically write for them, like just on the side. And
okay.
that's how I got my first bit of writing experience for newspapers and magazines at the time. My first experience of media, if you like. And I was still at the accountancy firm, but that's where I wanted to take my career. That was my first kind of real passion when I was a teenager.
I know that you probably eventually went on to study journalism, is that right?
Yeah, so when I decided I wanted to do it, and I'd quit the accountancy malarkey, because that was just a waste of time. Great experience, great learning experience for a young lad, like just knowing what business is about and knowing how to deal with managers and clients and all that kind of stuff. That was such a great experience, but the accountancy side wasn't me. So when I decided I wanted to take up the profession of journalism full time, I basically wrote to a number of publications and said, listen, I will work for you guys for free. I want to work for you guys for free, and I'm studying. So as long as I can have my study time, I'll do whatever you want for free. And that's what I did. I don't remember what age I was. I was probably still a teenager, to be honest.
Wow.
So I spent a year doing H&C in journalism and working for various newspapers for free, and got lots of experience.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, that was my way in, if you like.
Yeah. And so how did your career unfold with it being kind of journalism specific?
So it started off really good. I mean, when I was studying, I was working for like really big publications, like national newspapers. Wow. As a writer, and like I loved it, and it was great experience, and I got my byline in a lot of big papers and stuff, and it was great. But just as I finished my studies, I think it was probably around the time when the financial crisis of 2008 was really going quite strong. So I struggled to get a permanent position, a paid position, for a long time, and that's when I decided to do a bit of travelling and working whatever jobs I could. So I did take a bit of a relapse then in my career aspirations, thinking it's never going to happen, I'm never actually going to get paid for this, and wondering what to do. But I guess it was probably a year after I'd finished studying journalism, I thought to myself, like, there has to be a way. I know things are still bad in the UK, and things were really bad, but they were actually worse here in Scotland than they were elsewhere. And that is when I decided to move to London. Well, actually, I got the job first in London and then moved. Right. But I decided to look for jobs. There were, a lot of things happened in between that time, including getting married. I got married quite young.
Wow, really? Okay.
Lived for 6 months in Brazil, and that was all in between that period of not knowing what to do and not having any full-time job in Edinburgh. And I ended up after that, got married, and we ended up in London. I got my first real job in journalism in London for an investment publication, a magazine that deals specifically with investments. And again, like, this is another period in my life when my family were like, what? Like, how, I don't know how you didn't study anything, you ended up a trainee accountant, and now you're working for an investment publication. As an investment journalist, surely you need to have some knowledge of investments. Which I didn't. And it was basically, I used a bit of the Scottish brass neck and Scottish charm, and as I say, I'm a very good interviewer, I think. And I decided, I took it upon myself to say, listen, I've got this job now as an investment journalist, I need to learn it. So I was working and I was learning, like studying, like day and night to kind of know the material I was writing.
Yeah.
And I had a very good team around me as well, where I was working, who took me under their wing. So I just kind of ended up in investment publications. I don't know how that happened. Yeah,
Really? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I enjoyed I mean, any journalism is storytelling. Whether you're like in a newspaper, whether you're in some kind of niche market, or whether it's financial services. I mean, obviously, it is drier than other types of storytelling, much drier.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of interesting stories. Like there was the bread and butter stuff that we used to do every week, which was boring. But then we would go off and interview people. You know, chief execs of companies or investment managers, people who had amazing stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they were talking about investments or whatever, it was still great to get out there and get the experience of talking to these types of people.
Yeah.
And also found as a journalist, a young journalist, like I was getting so much amazing access to all these like high flyers around the world.
Yeah.
And they were inviting me to their dinners and stuff, and I was like, it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
I think as a journalist, you're often you're often invited to a lot of different places to meet people, and that was great. Like it wasn't a well-paid job or anything, but it was a great experience for me to kind of get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And start in the world of journalism, as a writer.
And so, do you still have a hand in that? Are you still involved in journalism?
So, kind of. I mean, I still retain a lot of relationships. I mean, I should say I stuck at the journalism for 2 or 3 years, and then decided I wanted to be a journalist in-house in the investment companies, because they had just realised that they actually needed writers in-house to do their own content marketing
Of course, yeah.
exactly that time. That's when the whole blogging thing was big.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly all the investment companies were like, well, we should hire the journalists to do this for us in-house. And like, there's no secret they pay like 2 or 3 times what a journalism salary is. So
yes,
I ended up going in-house, working for investment banks as a marketer. Started off as a writer, and that side of it, I've definitely still got a hand in the corporate side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily have a hand in the journalism side, in terms of mainstream publications or anything like that.
Yeah.
But definitely in the corporate sense, the companies that I used to work for, and a lot of the contacts that I had then, a lot of people I worked with, who have now switched around different companies. I mean, I still keep in close contact with those guys. So it was a great world to work in. Met lots of interesting people, and I ended up becoming a marketer.
Yeah.
Again, and just something I fell into.
And you become very good at that.
I guess the marketing side was great because it stood me in good stead for what I do now in my own personal brand, really.
Yeah.
Because when you're working in an investment bank, like their brands are everything for them. And they were going through a period they had just come out of the financial crisis. The trust in that industry was at an all-time low. And they were like, we need to change this. We need to do something with our brand to make that perception better. So I was at the grassroots of like a big movement among financial services companies to get their brand better through content, mostly through writing at that time, blogs, and they went onto social media. So then I'm involved in the social media of investment banks, which was another great thing for me. It's just, I don't know, my career's just been one mistake after the next in terms of landing into things that I've never studied or deserve the right to be involved in, really.
Well, I mean, I think what fascinates me the most, and I'm really interested to hear how it all came about, is, vlogging. I mean, when did you first realise that vlogging was a thing, and what was it that really interested you, in terms of getting involved in it?
Yeah. Well, I guess it was probably towards the end of my in-house career in financial services, the last 6 months. As I say, my wife's Brazilian, and we do spend a bit of time over there. And I decided I'd been working in investment marketing for about 5 years, and I decided to take a bit of a break from that. We went over to Brazil and stayed there for a year. And it was probably around that time that I started getting involved in watching other vloggers and what they do. And just noticing the trends, even from being an internal marketer, like noticing the trends going towards video. It was still in its infancy. It wasn't, I'd say it's an infancy, but it was still at a stage where it was, a lot of people were getting interested in it and starting it, but it was really, there were a few hardcore people who had been vlogging for a few years, but it wasn't to the saturated level it is now.
Yeah.
But we did know, even internally and the likes of the banks and stuff, we did know there was a movement towards video, big time. And I knew that like platforms like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all that, like they're just so open and so many opportunities for people just to tell stories, and that's what I wanted to do in my life from the beginning. And I decided when I went to Brazil for the year, I wanted to share with my family and friends back in Scotland what my life was, really. I didn't necessarily think, right, I'm going to be a vlogger like the other guys that I watch. Like at the time, I was a massive fan of like Casey Neistat. He was my inspiration to actually start doing videos. And I guess the first year of it I never really did any vlogs. They were just kind of videos here and there about my life in Brazil. Taking inspiration from people like Casey and others who were doing videos at the time. They hadn't actually started vlogging either. Casey himself, he hadn't started vlogging back then. So that first year when I was in Brazil was my first kind of involvement in YouTube, putting videos online. And yeah, first year it was basically my life in Brazil, what am I doing there, and like all the different cultural things that are over there, showing my friends and family, and then a couple of people started to watch. And then I was like, yeah, this is cool. I like this. There's a great community of people who watch, and it helps me out a lot, even mentally, to be involved with that type of community. Yeah. So I just took it from there.
So how do you, I mean, I know firsthand what it's like to create content. I mean, firstly, with this, I also did some vlogging for a brief spell. How do you come up with ideas for content to create?
So I think it's evolved for me over the years. When I started the first year, it was really just trial and error of different things. I never really had any plans or strategies. It was just like trying different bits and pieces and see how I like doing them. But I guess there was no cohesion. Nowadays, it's probably a little bit more professional, I think. Not much, but yeah. I guess I do like to pay attention to what trends are going on. Like I watch a lot of vloggers out there, a lot of people who make videos and just see what's doing well, and then I kind of formulate my own ideas as well. Also sticking tightly to things that I believe in, things that are important to me as well. And when you put that all together, like what's happening in the world of social media and video, and then what's happening in your own life, that's when you kind of come up with a few sparks of ideas, storytelling. Yeah. I always wanted to do, ever since I was young, I wanted to do kind of travel documentaries on TV. Okay. It sounds silly, but I thought maybe I could just make my vlogs in that kind of same tone, right? So that is pretty much how my ideas come about, yeah.
Yeah. I'm really interested to hear about, I suppose, the creation process. So, I mean, you know, in terms of, do you kind of batch your content? Do you have it going out in a certain schedule? How long does it take you to do a vlog? That sort of stuff.
So I think for me, since I started vlogging, like a lifestyle vlog, I tend to get the videos up as quickly as possible. I don't like to sit on them that long. Okay. Usually it'll be the next day. So if I film one day, it'll appear online the next. Yeah. It doesn't always work out like that. For various life things that might go on, stop that. But that is what I always plan to do. I will say, like, as I say, Casey Neistat was definitely 100% my biggest inspiration when I think about why I started this and what I wanted to take it forward. Actually, when he started doing a daily vlog, which was the early part of 2014, I decided a couple of weeks after that is definitely where this should be. Okay. That is where the industry should be. That is where a lot of people are going to get attention, and I should be doing it as well. So it's probably about 2 weeks after he started doing a daily vlog. I think it was early 2014. I think it was early 2014. I could be corrected on that. I
think that sounds about right.
Probably around March time. It was literally weeks later I decided I'm going to start doing daily vlogs as well. I've never managed to be as prolific as all the other daily vloggers out there who do it every single day of their lives. But that has always been my end goal with vlogging. Really? I've always wanted to build up to that. Okay. I kind of get in rhythms, like I'll build myself up and then I'm suddenly doing 4 a week and then 5 a week and then 6 a week. And then something happens and it kind of comes back down again. For example, last couple of weeks, just because of various different things that have been going on, like I've not done as many videos as I would have liked, but I would like to be, I'm now at a stage where I want to be professional. I think I've got the experience of vlogging and what I need to do with it to actually say I could do it daily now. And I want to take that step. we'll see.
This isn't meant at all as a criticism, but people that don't know what it takes to do that, they simply don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, how much time does it take you to actually edit your vlogs, to upload the vlogs, and how do you fit that into your day?
So it can be really tough. I mean, I think for the first 2 years of doing this, it was really, really tough because I also had other jobs on, whether it was the investment stuff that I was doing, journalism and whatever. I had lots of freelance stuff going on. Nowadays, I've kind of focused my time specifically on what I'm doing on social media for the last year. It's been exactly a year actually that I've been pretty much full time on social media. And it's certainly a lot easier now because I can focus all my time and attention on social media and making videos. There's a lot of other stuff around it. I would say filming a vlog is really probably the easiest part of the process.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just filming like a life vlog or a lifestyle vlog, it's the easiest part because you're just basically recording, documenting what you do in a day or a couple of days or whatever it happens to be. I think the magic probably happens in the edit process, which takes a bit longer. But it really varies depending on the vlog. Like, I can spend anything from 1 hour. I've done it in an hour before, if it's a short and snappy one, but it's usually more 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, 2-3 hours a night is probably just the edits, but there's so much more involved in social media. And I think a lot of people who want to start YouTube, they don't understand, they don't appreciate the fact that YouTube at its heart is a community and it's a social media platform like Facebook, like Twitter, like Instagram. And to get any of these social media platforms to do well for you as a personal brand or even as a corporate brand, you need to put the time in behind the scenes as well. It's not just the posting the content, it's all the other stuff as well, like building the community is absolutely the biggest part of it. So yeah, to do a daily vlog, and I think it's definitely it can be a full-time job.
Definitely.
Once you want to take it seriously. I mean, it's impossible for everybody to start that way. Like, as I say, I started for the first 2 years doing lots of other things at the same time. And it definitely takes a while to build up to that. But
yeah,
once you're doing it like 4 or 5 videos a week, it is a full-time thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, this is the question that people always ask. People, I kind of dread hearing it, but in terms of like the monetization element, I know that you've got a Patreon account.
Yep.
For people that don't know what that is, that's basically, I suppose, like crowdfunding, and a way that people can support the work that you do. I mean, longer term, is that the route that you would like to go down with it?
I think probably not. This is something that takes a while to work out and to understand how it's going to play out. I don't have the answers either.
Yeah.
YouTube, as a vlogger, you get monetization from the YouTube platform itself. It's not a lot, but if you had a lot of views, then you would be getting significant amount of income from that. But if you're not, like for most of us, then you have to look at other ways. And a lot of people are sending me messages. Like, I've got such an amazing community of people who follow. Like, I really adore them, and they're really supportive. And lots of people are sending me messages like, how can we help fund your channel? How can we help fund growth? Can we just send you some money on PayPal? I had lots of people sending those types of messages, yeah. Oh. And then other creators in the community we get together quite a lot and we talk, like, kind of pub chat about YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were actually using Patreon and finding that it was a great way for people who wanted to help the channel, their favorite channels, to grow and to donate. So yeah, I think after I heard from a really good friends who were doing it, people I trust, I was very skeptical in the beginning about doing it. I thought it was like, I don't know, it didn't feel right. But as soon as I heard from friends who I trusted and who were really good people, that they were doing it and having a lot of support from their community, then I thought, well, if people are happy to do it, I might as well, let's see what happens. And yeah, the community on Patreon's been amazing, and it definitely helps. It helps. Like a lot of the vlogs that we do, there's a lot of costs behind it as well that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. Even the equipment itself, you spend a lot of money on that. You spend money on travelling to and from locations. Like, I do a lot of location shoots, like around Scotland, and sometimes that will involve a night away, for example.
Yeah.
So Patreon for me right now basically covers my costs, and that is amazing. Like, to know that I've got a community of people who have my back on that.
Yeah,
is incredible, and people are happy to do it. So
yeah,
I don't think that is I mean, there's not many like big creators are using that as like a full-time income, and I don't think that is what Patreon is necessarily for.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. There could be people who are doing it as an income, but for me, I don't see it as an income stream. I see it as a way to kind of help fund channel growth and sustainability.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably better to look at it. Yeah.
Where I think, yeah, monetization can be really great on YouTube if you have a lot of views.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is basically the main source of a lot of YouTubers' income.
Absolutely.
Patreon is just really a way to, as an extra support, and
Yeah.
it's a great platform to have for creators, and it's helped me a lot.
Why do you think young people want to become vloggers today?
It's a really interesting question, and I've heard this a lot. Like, I think there's a ridiculous stat I've heard. It's like 2/3 of school children nowadays want to be vloggers as a full time. That's like a career aspiration, not just like for fun. YouTube and other platforms like that have given a lot of empowerment to people to be creative, to have full time incomes doing what they want to do, to travel the world, to meet incredible people, to like. It's just the list is endless. And I think when you see that, you think like maybe I could have that as well. I guess the important thing to realize and to make clear about that is like YouTube, I think for most people should be started off as something you do for fun first of all, and not as a business or a career aspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to think like one day that will happen. That is always a goal. I totally agree with that, but I think in initial days, like it's good to do it as something you have on the side, something you do. You might put all your passion and energy into it in your spare time, but it's not something to. It would be very difficult to jump right into it as a full-time career. But at the same time, this is always a paradox, right? At the same time as I advise caution about people just to jump in thinking they're going to make loads of money from it, I think parents need to fully support and encourage kids who want to do digital media, whether that is YouTube or whether it is Twitch gaming, for example. So there's definitely a balance there. There's a balance between encouraging people, young people especially, to like live their dreams and do what they want to do, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also to realize that it's not going to happen right away.
Yeah.
It's going to take 2 or 3 years before you're going to see any kind of return from that. So
yeah, I think that's really good advice. My next question was going to be what one piece of advice would you give to someone looking to start vlogging? Yeah,
I mean there's quite a lot of things I would say on that. I think one thing is, if you're going to vlog, is just to be yourself. Right? A lot of people say that it's quite cliche, but it's so important because when you build a community of people who follow you, they follow because of you, not necessarily because of the videos you're doing. I mean, sometimes it works the other way around as well. There's two sides of it, but ultimately people hit the subscribe button because they like you. They might come onto it because, I don't know, you're giving great tips on cameras or great tips about a certain destination in a travel video, but ultimately they'll hit the subscribe button because they like the person. So I think audiences really see through people who are not being themselves. So I think that's really crucial for anybody who wants to start out, is just be yourself and have fun with it. Absolutely, just have fun with it.
What's the closest you've ever come to quitting?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably in the first year, several times. I would have said like, this is not working, because as I said, YouTube is a slow. I think any digital media, whether if you want to take it as a kind of full-time career eventually, it's a slow, hard slog for years before you can ever think that it's going to be a success. And the first year is definitely the most tough, like the first 1,000 subscribers, I would say. There's lots of times throughout that process where I think, this ain't going to work. It's just going to, and even today, like there's times I think, is it ever going to be to the high stages where a lot of other people around the world are at?
Where would you like it to be?
Well, I think I would love to be at the stage where I am financially stable for it, to do it, and also being able to travel around the world and meet the people who support me, because a lot of the people who watch my vlogs are, they're not necessarily from here in Scotland, they're from all around the world, North America, United States, Canada, Australia, and I would love to like just have the financial security to say like, I'm just going to go to these places and meet the people who support me and do events and stuff like that, and continue living my dream basically. Because it's tough. It's something that I do as a passion, the sensible logic in my head says this is not right, even now.
Really?
It's like I should be in a job somewhere in London, where I know I'd be getting a good salary, I'd be like stable, I'd have like be paying a rent or a mortgage or whatever.
Yeah.
This is not the easy route that I've taken, like not by any means, and it still might not. At the end of the day, it's still not. It still might not turn out to be successful. But it's always in the back of my head that if I don't try it, if I don't go for it, then it definitely won't be. So I'm kind of putting myself through a period of, how can I put this? Putting myself through a period of hard work with little in terms of financial reward.
Yeah.
Over the last year and future years to come, maybe. And it's tough. Like there's lots of people might not be able to stomach that, or have the circumstances where they could do that.
Of course, yeah.
Because there's lots of reasons that people like they might have a family to support, and they might. It's difficult to. They might have mortgages. Once you're tied into a mortgage, how can you quit everything and do that? I mean, I've been fortunate. Me and my wife have made the decisions we have, and we're not necessarily tied down to anywhere. So, yeah, I guess that is definitely a big side of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what I'm doing now if I had kids. I don't think. I would have to have had a job by now. I would have to have went back to my jobs, but back to my careers that I quit basically a few years ago. But it comes down to happiness, I think, because I was working in London, working for some really massive investment banks and making really good salaries, like money that I could never have imagined ever making. And I wasn't happy. Like, I had a great lifestyle in London, had a decent place to live, and I never worried about bills or anything like that. But I wasn't happy. Like, and I found like anxiety creeping in. Like, I've always had anxiety throughout my life, but it was probably at my deepest and darkest stages when I was in London working in something that ultimately did not make me happy. So I'm doing something now that makes me happy. I love building the community around the world. I love traveling. I love meeting people, and I love making videos. And I'm doing something now which isn't necessarily financially rewarding, but at the same time I love it. So this is my passion.
Yeah.
And like, can you put a price on that? You know?
I don't think so. Great
Ranting
stuff.
a little bit.
No, not at all. I think what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And you're right, I think a lot of people would take what I suppose is kind of the easier path. But if you're doing it because if you can reconcile it with yourself and know that, be clear on why you're doing it.
And I think it's the easier path, and also it's the expected path.
Yeah.
A lot of people have pressures to do that, like, because they studied for a degree, their family are saying they have to stick with that career or whatever.
Definitely.
Their partners might say that that's the right route for them.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, you know.
Yeah.
As well as actually being comfortable, it's actually the expected thing. Society expects people that they'll fulfill that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely putting myself through a period of kind of punishment in some ways, but it's also it's cleansing because I love it.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good, and I've never been happier. So, like, I don't know.
That's awesome. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, Shaun. I have to be honest. I can empathise fully. Adventure everything. This is now becoming bigger and bigger. How did that first come about?
Well, I think it was always in the back of my mind, like, why am I doing these vlogs? The first couple of years when I was doing this, as I say, not many people watched, and I used to think to myself, like, what is my purpose? And then when I started to think about the jobs that I was doing in London, like, as I said, the full-time job that I didn't enjoy doing in London, the career path I'd chosen, and I decided that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make my own rules in life and take back control of circumstances and health, my own health. And I felt that Adventure Everything was the kind of summary of that. That is how I saw the life that I wanted to live and aspired to live. And I thought if I could write that down on paper in 2 words and have it as a slogan, it would almost be like a kind of monkey on my shoulder. That is a lifestyle that I should be fulfilling and I want to fulfill. And the only thing stopping me from fulfilling it is myself and actually going for it. So now that I have the brand, it's like I've got no excuses. I have to go for it. I have to live my own brand every day, and it reminds me to do that. Now it's kind of like a living and breathing thing. It's like it makes me determined to actually live it. And that's what this is about for me, actually going for it, living it, experiencing it, as difficult as it might be. I'm going for it and being true to the brand, if you like.
Yeah.
So really bringing it to life, bringing Adventure Everything to life was a way for me to kind of say, I've made a choice that a lot of people would find difficult to take, and I appreciate that. But it makes me happy, and I think ultimately it will be good for me. I even got a tattoo on my arm of my logo, like just so it was permanently there. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I got my brand Adventure Everything tattooed on my arm, just as that is never going to leave me. If I fail at this, if I don't do it, it's always going to be there as a reminder. So I might as well just make the most of it. And it's really kind of an aspirational thing. And I think there's a lot of people in the world actually who could live more of a lifestyle that follows the path that I'm talking about. As it's not practical for everybody, and it's not easy for everybody to just do that. But I think there's a lot more people actually who could take the risk and could do it. So I wanted to inspire other people to follow the life that I've done. Not going to university, because I didn't do that. Like, that's the expected route.
Yeah.
Still managed to get jobs. It's not necessarily a barrier. And just follow their own path, whatever that might be. If that is a dream job that they've always wanted, but they go for it, even though it might have been difficult, then that's great. That's Adventure Everything for me as well.
Yeah.
So that is what Adventure Everything is about. It's an aspirational lifestyle choice, and how I hope to live my life, basically.
I love that. That's so cool. So, I mean, what's the vision for Adventure Everything? You've obviously now got adventureeverything.club.
Yeah.
And you've got clothing items.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going?
That's a great question. I don't really know. It's really, as I say, a lot of the community and a lot of people who watch my content, they love that. They really believe in the brand as well, the idea of Adventure Everything that I've been talking about. So for me, it's about protecting and helping that community to live a more adventurous or a lifestyle that's going to make them happy. That's what it's ultimately about, and that's why I chose a .club domain name as well, because I wanted it to be a club. I wanted to give people my personal email address where I could help them and with any tips, big or small. I mean, I've got clothes as well that I sell, but that's not. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know where it goes, but I know it's about the community first.
Okay.
That's the one thing I do know.
Yeah.
And helping people to realize their dreams and live that lifestyle. So whether that is a clothing brand in future, I don't know. I mean, of course, I have, as I say, got some items for sale, but
yeah. What is your favorite social media platform and why?
This is controversial, right? This is going to be really controversial.
Okay.
I love YouTube for what it's done for me.
Yeah.
It's changed my life. YouTube is amazing. But my first love on social media is Twitter.
That is controversial.
It's very controversial.
That's very controversial.
And the thing is, I think in terms of a platform, if any business wants to invest in a social media platform to take their content forward, to take their brand forward, Twitter would be the bottom of the list right now.
Yeah.
Even someone who's building their own personal brand, it would still be bottom of the list. But despite that, I still love it. And it's just because of the engagements with people I've had over the years. And it was the first social media platform that I got into.
Oh, okay.
My first social media love, if you like, in terms of platforms.
Yeah.
And I've just had so many amazing, deep connections with people on Twitter. It saw me through some dark times as well. Like I would, if I ever had problems and anxiety in my life or whatever it happened to be, the community on Twitter was always there for me and always really supportive. And they've been with me from the beginning, basically. So although in terms of a social media marketing investment platform, it's not the place to spend your ad dollars at all, for me it's the one I love most and the one I've always had a deep connection with and love the community there. So it's difficult. YouTube has always given me the biggest opportunities. Twitter's always been there from the beginning and yeah, hopefully it continues to thrive.
Yeah. If you were going to start your personal brand all over again from today and start a community, what would you do?
I think I would do pretty much the same as I have done, although I'd be better knowledged in terms of a few tricks that goes on behind the scenes. in terms of the type of content you create, because there are things you can do in terms of what trends are happening. You can tailor content that does follow trends, and that is a way to bring audiences in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sooner you realise that when you're trying to build a personal brand, the sooner you can try and build an audience quicker.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of examples of people who have done it, whether they are people who decide they want to have a vlog about technology or about cameras. There are certain types of content you could do within those niches that people are just going to find through YouTube algorithms, through things like that. And the quicker you can get to doing those types of videos,
mm-hmm.
You're going to build up an audience a bit quicker. So I've done it the hard and long way. I didn't start off doing videos like that at all. I just did videos that I wanted to do and enjoyed doing, which is very important as well. But to know some of the tricks about videos that are going to get bigger views on platforms is, I think, important as well, to match the both. Yeah. If you're serious about building a brand.
What do you think are going to be the main future trends with social media?
That is so difficult because it changes all the time and it's been really quick. I mean, I think there is a lot of talk over the last 6 months about people being disappointed in this platform and disappointed in that platform because of algorithm changes, because of monetization changes. Mm-hmm. People saying, oh, we're all leaving this one. But ultimately, I think the big ones that are around at the moment are going to be here for quite a while to come, especially if they continue to innovate the way they have been. I think if we look at the Facebook group of companies, Facebook, Instagram, they're going to be important for years to come. I think YouTube will continue to be the main dominant player in video, only if it continues to follow the community and the needs of the community and to adapt to the community, which it has done, sometimes slowly, but it continues to follow the trends, and it continues to, I believe, to be on the creator side. So I think YouTube is still going to be a dominant player in video for a long time to come, but there's also other services coming, like Amazon. I think Amazon's got so much money to spend on social media through Twitch. I think that could be important in future. So I just recently opened a Twitch account as well. I think it's important for anybody who's got a personal brand to at least taste and give everything a shot, and be spread quite widely across the platforms. I make sure my brand is on everything, and I maintain each one with a heavy presence. I think it's never a good idea just to dip in really lightly into one, because it's never really going to work. So I go in as hard as I can on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and if there's any other dominant player that comes up, I think it would be important to go all in as well. I definitely think people should keep an eye on what Amazon's doing.
Interesting.
But I still think, definitely. But I still believe YouTube will be a dominant video platform for a long time to come. Facebook will be a dominant social media general platform for a long time to come. But it is interesting. You just never know. Because big companies have failed in the past. So.
Why do you think so many people are interested in watching people do Scottish accents?
That is an interesting question. I had no idea about this when I started.
Really?
I had no idea that people like the Scottish accent. I don't know. When I started doing videos, a lot of people just commented saying, like, I love your accent. I was like, I've never heard that before. Because as a Scottish person here in Scotland, you don't really hear that often, really. But it just became such a big force on my channel. Like, thousands of people come on saying they love the Scottish accent, and then we've had all the popularity of TV shows and stuff that's been about Scottish culture. I've done really well, and most of the audience is not British. Most of the audience is from the rest of the world. I think the thing is that we don't realise in Scotland, which is really important, is there is such a big community of people around the world who identify themselves as being from Scottish ancestry. And it's almost as if Scottish people have either forgotten that or they resist it and kind of almost ignore that the rest of the world who are from Scottish ancestry exist. And I think through my content, I've managed to make a connection with a lot of those people. And those people who have Scottish ancestry, they're hungry for information about Scotland, for that connection. A lot of them can literally trace their generations back 5, 6, 7 generations back to a place in Scotland. And they all have Scottish names. And they're very proud of it. You know, they might live in the United States, but they have their clan tartans. And I think it's great that people around the world celebrate our culture. and whether
Yeah.
that is through something simple like accents or whatever. But I feel quite proud of that.
What are your views on Scotland as a nation?
Scotland as a nation, that is a hot potato, right? It has been over the last few years.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I say this? I truly believe Scotland has a lot of talent, and could definitely support itself on its own if it needed to. I think we've made so many great things, inventions over the years.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of intelligent people who run the country. I think the thing is, Scotland is a nation. I've been involved in so many debates in this that have went wrong that I'm quite
Okay,
I
guarded.
tend to avoid politics on YouTube now altogether because it's went so badly in the past.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so divisive now, right?
Yeah, it is.
Um,
Horribly so, yeah.
Horribly so. I mean, it's in terms of Scotland, if we're going to talk about Scotland as an independent country, right? I lived in London for 5 years. I have so many connections with Britain. My family voted 50% one way, 50% the other. They're very split as well. Like everybody's family probably was.
Mm-hmm.
I identify with some of the good things Britain's done, and some of the good things we do together as Great Britain. I value a lot of the things we do together in trade and the shared links we have. At the same time, I also see that Scotland's very, very different from the rest of the United Kingdom. Certainly from London, where when I lived there, I could see how different my upbringing was from people who lived in London. And that politics centralised in London doesn't necessarily make sense for Scotland sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's like almost that I'm very proud of being Scottish, and I can certainly see Scotland being able to stand up on its own two feet as an independent country. But I also, at the same time, like I'm very split. You know? I would say I'm very open-minded.
Okay.
But it's an interesting debate, and it always comes up. Anybody who talks about Scotland, Scottish culture on YouTube or whatever, always gets this question. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic response. I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's good stuff. So this is probably an easier question for you to answer. I mean, what things do you think we could do better?
Scotland, I think, I'm going to talk about social media because that is what I'm involved in. That's what I spend all my time in. I think Scotland has a lot of improvements to do in terms of the way companies and people in general perceive social media and what it could do for them. I think we're very behind the times. Even government agencies who are in charge of running our tourism, I think, are quite behind and slow. And I think Scotland as a nation has been caught off guard over the last year in particular in terms of the tourism that's hit us based on television shows that have come here and filmed here, big blockbusters that have been so successful around the world. I mean, literally, Outlander is one of the shows that I'm talking about, which has been amazing for Scotland. And literally, people in Scotland had hardly even knew what it was until it already finished the second season.
I don't think I would have known about it had it not been for your content.
I mean, that's just so many people say that.
Seriously.
And yet, people from around the world have been going crazy for it for years, and have been over the last year just piling in. Like Edinburgh Airport's doing great. Edinburgh as a city, it's difficult to find a room here now.
Yeah,
It's fully booked. I think we've been totally caught off guard by the amount of people who've taken interest in not just Outlander, but it has helped definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of different reasons all kind of combined at once, and now we're scrambling to kind of catch up. And I am disappointed by the amount of messages I get by people who watch my videos and say they've came to Scotland 2 or 3 times and they'll continue to do so. They love Scottish people. They love the landscape, but they have felt that Scotland wasn't prepared for them, and they felt that they've struggled because of infrastructure, and have also had resistance in some local communities. When tourism, ultimately, Scotland's a really small country, right? I think tourism could be so important for us. It is so important for us, and
absolutely.
we need to harbour it. We need to make sure it flourishes.
Yeah.
And partly the digital side of that is really important, the social media side.
Of course, yeah.
And I think we need to open a conversation about how we make that happen, both in terms of attracting new people and making sure the people that do come here have a really smooth and comfortable trip. I mean, I've heard stories of people going up the Highlands and stuff and literally spending hours on the road on buses and not being able to go to the toilet anywhere because there's no facilities. Like, and then at the same time, we've got people complaining, Scottish people who live in small communities, saying that tourism is ruining their roads, ruining their communities. So I almost feel like needs to be someone in the middle of that taking responsibility for making things run smoother. And I've seen really ridiculous articles in press here, Scottish press, who have criticised tourists who have come, for example, to watch Outlander filming locations, for what I don't really know why they're criticising. They've said things like they've damaged property, which is almost totally untrue. And unfortunately, it's just a problem where there has been a lack of infrastructure in a lot of places that just haven't been able to cope with the numbers that have come in. And there are also some places that literally do not want people to come as well. So I don't know, I think we've got a lot of work to do, and I think a lot of conversations need to be had in Scotland about how we seize the moment, because this won't last forever.
No.
So how do we build brand Scotland as this tourist destination that people want to keep coming back to for years and years to come? Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I haven't heard that sort of perspective on things. But that's really interesting.
I mean, I think for me it's, you only realise that once you speak to the customer.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
And the people who watch my videos who come to Scotland, who might be coming to Scotland, they're the tourists, and they're the people who they need to be supported when they're here. Yeah. And to have messages from those types of people who have had bad experiences here, not because they've been treated badly by people, but because they've been let down by things including infrastructure and whatever else. I think that's just disappointing.
It is. Maybe a potential job role for you in there.
Exactly, yeah. Be a brand ambassador for Scotland.
Absolutely. How would you say you have evolved as a person throughout your life?
That is a really difficult question to answer. How I evolved. I struggled a lot in my teenage years for anxiety in particular. It was really, really tough. I had a lot of years when I couldn't leave the house and I lost all confidence. And I think nowadays, especially through vlogging, that has all come back. I kind of feel like I've got my mojo back. And I have become a person that just wants to do more and get out there. I mean, I've always had a bit of that, but I have been held back throughout certain periods of my life because of anxiety. And now I just feel, I don't know, whether it's through the community that's helped me along the way, or the fact that I serve them at the end of the day, that I actually want to get out there and do more. I just feel content now. I think there's a certain maturity that's come about as well. I think I made a lot of silly mistakes when I was younger, and I did a lot of things based on impulses and silly things like that, but I guess that's just part of getting older, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What would you say has been your biggest perceived failure, and what did you learn from it?
That is... Failure, this is a difficult one for me, because I try not to dwell too much on failures.
Okay.
Like, I have, of course, had moments in my life when I have failed. I haven't seen projects through. I haven't seen jobs long enough through, like in my career. Sometimes I've went on to bigger and better things, and other times I haven't. But I try not to dwell on it. Like, I think the reason I find this a difficult question to answer is that I don't let those memories sit in my head. I like to learn lessons from things I've done badly, but I like to move on really quick. And like, I don't have any really big, massive failures. I don't really regret much. I don't regret not going to uni. I don't regret starting in a career in accountancy that was never right for me. I don't regret it. I don't regret leaving that. I don't regret going into journalism. I don't regret going into asset management. And then I don't regret yet leaving asset management and my job in London. So yeah, I try not to dwell on things and just move forward. But yeah, I mean, I think it is important to learn from mistakes, but at the same time realize that things often happen, even if they seem bad at the time, but they turn out well in the end, if you can use that energy in a positive way going forward.
Absolutely. That's such a great mindset to have, especially when you're vlogging, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's like lots of times when I've done something that's like an embarrassment.
50 views, what?
Exactly, yeah. Like, the thing is, you could really easily crumble
Yeah.
just because of one mistake or one bad comment.
Yeah.
This is the problem with YouTube, and a lot of people don't realize until they start, is you're going to get people who don't like you and don't like what you do. And if you dwell on that, you're never going to be able to progress, because you're going to be thinking about these people who say bad things about you.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It can be really mentally tough, but you have to have thick skin, you have to move forward, and I have been able to do that. And it's definitely a really important thing, like just to ignore a lot of the stuff that doesn't actually really mean anything in your life. Like the negativity it's going to be there. It's just about moving past it.
You actually touched upon this earlier, but just to avoid any doubt, what do you feel is your purpose in life?
My purpose, I think I want to help and inspire others. Definitely, that is something I've learned over the last few years since I've been taking this YouTube thing seriously. And since I've started to build the community, like when I get messages from people, and I get a lot of messages every single day, and when I get a message from someone who said I've made their day, or I've made them feel better, or I've made them think about something differently, and they'll change their life a little bit, or people who have actually, I get messages from people who have said like, I have changed things for them, or made them feel better, or made them do something in their life that they would never have done before, and now they feel great. Like that just fills my heart with joy, literally, and it makes everything seem worth it for me. So if I want to continue to inspire people to do things they want to do in their life and feel happy. I think happiness is what the end goal for this is, whether it's my own self or other people. And I think it's just about finding what that happiness is, whether it's financial security, or whether it's exploring the world, or meeting people, or just breaking out of anxiety. And being able to do normal things, because that is a big one for a lot of people. I think we're going through a crisis of anxiety around the world right now. And it's tough. I've been there, like since I was a teenager. There's been times in my life when I couldn't leave the home. There's been times in my life when I've ended up in A&E like dozens of times because of anxiety.
Jeez.
And like, I know I'm not going to go back to that, but there's a lot of people who are in those circumstances at the moment. And if I can help them, if I can help one or two people, that's like literally, that's what the biggest driver for me is.
How would you like to be remembered? What would you like your legacy to be?
I don't know. Like, I'm not really. That is a deep thought question. I think I just want to, as I said to you in the previous question, I think I just want to keep trying to help people change their own lives. If I can help people to be inspired to do different things and try new things and go new places. For me at the moment, that is what it's about, and building that community. And if I can show off Scotland at the same time and get people to be passionate about my country and come here and spend money here and visit the country as well, that's amazing. If I can get people more interested in their own history and culture, because that's another problem. Scottish people don't necessarily understand their own culture and history. So there's that side as well. Long-term legacy, I guess, it's a work in progress, and it's going to be something I work out over the next 10 years. Maybe that's something we'll need to update in future.
I was thinking that.
Maybe just right now I'm just kind of loving what I'm doing and want to keep building it.
Yeah, great stuff. I suspect I have an idea as to what you might say here. How do you define success?
Success, like, I think success is a difficult thing to put your finger on, because it's so different for each person. Like when I started on YouTube, for example, this is a great way to look at it. If you're looking at YouTube and want to start YouTube, when I started with 0 subscribers, like 100 was the goal. Like when you get 100, it's like, wow. And then it's like 1,000 is huge. And I always think the first 1,000 is like one of the hardest levels if we're talking about YouTube. And then once you get that 1,000, then your goal changes. Like, that was a success. And then you think, right, I've done that now. You build on to the next thing, 10,000, 20, whatever it is. For me now, like, the next one I'm looking at is probably, like, I would love one day to get to the silver play button. Like, it's a long, long way off, but that is, like, for me, that's my next level of YouTube success. But
that's 100,000,
yeah, 100,000 subscribers. Like, it's a silly thing, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But it's good as well to have goals if you're going to do this professionally, because it keeps you kind of motivated and in line.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think success is just, it depends on the person. It depends on the person's time of life. Like for me, when I was 16, the success was just getting a job. And once I got that job, it was like, okay, can I move up the ladder to the next job? Can I get more money? And then when you get there, it's like, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. It's like, I almost felt like when I quit that, I felt like that was so silly. Like all that work to find what I thought was success at the time was climbing the corporate ladder to something that ultimately did not make me happy. It seemed like that was the pillar of success at the time, but when you get there, you realize it's not, you know?
Yeah. So
it's a difficult thing to put your finger on. I think success is happiness at the end of the day.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Well, most people do. Most people do, because they realise that is the thing that actually is. That's the fulfillment.
Absolutely, and I think it can change your life. Like it can change the way you see things. It can change the way you have relationships with people and your health as well.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think you're most grateful for in life?
I think I'm grateful for the friends and family I've got around me. Like a lot of the decisions I've made, they could have been judged very harshly under different circumstances by different people. And I would not have had the support to do what I've done if it wasn't for the support of my wife, for example, or my mum and dad. They have been very supportive. I mean, they might not often agree with the things I'm doing are the right choices or the right path, but they've never criticised it. So I think I'm very grateful for that support around me, and I think it's very important because people do make decisions based on what their inner circle thinks of them, right?
Absolutely.
And how they judge them.
Big time.
And I think that is a problem for a lot of people. Like they might not be able to follow their dreams because of that. And I'm very grateful that has never been a massive barrier for me. So I think that's something I want to study more as well. Like how do people react and continue to do things that makes them unhappy because they've got like that pressure on them. So definitely the grateful thing for me is having that support group. And then of course the community, because I've had so much support from the YouTube community, the community that follows me on all the platforms, to be honest. Like they've helped me with so much, and it's not just about watching my videos. Like they've given me personal advice, like people that I've never met before. I travel around the world and I go to a city and then I'll say I'm here, and then lots of people come and meet me and go for a beer and buy me a drink and like it just makes me feel really warm to know that community is there. So I'm very grateful for that community, and I think that's the most important thing when people are like building any kind of presence online is the community first. So I'm very grateful for that.
Good answer. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think that I mean, it's difficult to break that down into like a quote or anything like that, because I've received a lot of good advice over the years. The way I believe knowledge has helped my life is I try and learn from even little things from everybody I meet. Like, and I've always done that since I was young. I try and have mentors. They might not know that they're my mentor, but they're my mentors anyway. And I learn a lot from different people that I meet, and whether I stick around them, or whether I become friends with them, or whether we just have a business relationship or whatever, but I'm constantly trying to learn from them. So I've received throughout that a lot of advice over the years, but I think it's the mass of that, of all the people that you get your knowledge from together. When you can kind of bring a lot of different people's advice and bring it together into one centralized thing, it's difficult to kind of define what that is, because it's different for everybody based on the people you meet and the people you get knowledge from. But I've always believed in this for me, that I will do better in life, I will be more successful, I will be more happy if I can make the knowledge pool vast and get lots of people and get lots of people's input and advice, rather than just believing one person, because one person's ways is never right. My way is never going to be right for another person necessarily. But I think if you can just like bring in together lots of advice into one place, and just basically, I think it's just about seeking out the right people and getting the right advice from a lot of different people, a lot of different sources. That's what I've always believed in. But definitely, I think it's about seeking happiness and not material things.
I really liked what you said, actually, just the first point that you hit on, the fact that when you surround yourself entirely with people that think like you, it really limits your sort of worldview,
Absolutely.
if you like. So by having a very broad spectrum of people that influence you, it makes you a far more well-rounded person.
Absolutely, I
that's
think that's
really
so important.
Yeah.
Like, even in terms of, like, we could take this to a really topical level, things that's been happening in the last year with politics, for example. And,
So much so.
and
Yeah.
I think the big problem is that once people realise you're on the other side, that's it. That's like shut off.
Yeah.
Two sides don't communicate.
Yeah.
But last year I went on a trip with the US Embassy in London, took a bunch of bloggers out to America, right? And a couple of the big themes were gun rights, which is a really difficult topic to tackle, especially for people from the UK, and politics. And we actually sat in front of Donald Trump as he gave the Remembrance Day speech at Arlington National Cemetery.
Unbelievable.
We were like 20 feet in front of him. And everybody who was there were like massive Trump fans, big supporters. And I guess natural instinct for a lot of people in our group would be like, we don't want to associate with them, we don't want to communicate because we're not going to agree, it's going to end up in an argument. But actually we all decided in that spur of the moment, like, let's just take this one opportunity. We're here among people we might not necessarily agree with, but let's just take this opportunity to have some dialogue. And that was one of the most valuable couple of hours we ever had in that trip, was speaking to people who we definitely probably wouldn't have agreed with, but we actually had a lot in common and a lot of common ground. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. So important. So important. So important to challenge your own beliefs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just feel comfortable in their beliefs and
Absolutely. Yeah.
not willing to kind of step outside that box. But once you do, you learn more.
Big time. Big time. If you had the opportunity to speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
If I spoke to my 20-year-old self, I would say, have more belief in the decisions that you're doing is the right thing and is going to work out. Because I think a lot of the anxiety that I had in my earlier years, and the crisis of anxiety that I had, because anxiety is something that's going to stay with you forever if you're that type of person. Like, I always have it, but I've got it under control, and I've had it under control for a long time now. But then I didn't. And the problem was I was always unsure of what I'm doing was the right thing.
Yeah.
I was always worried, like, what happens if I leave this job and the next one turns out to be rubbish and I get fired or whatever? What am I going to do? Like, and that would just get me racked with anxiety and made me really ill. And I think it was just about self-belief, really, and knowing that things actually will work out, because at that age you worry about silly things, I guess, more materialistically.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I look back and was to speak to myself, I'd say, what is important? That you and the closest relatives are happy and healthy. Like, if you lose your job, who cares? That's definitely what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote, I think it's something along the lines of, depression comes from worrying about the past, anxiety comes from worrying about the future, which I think's, intellectually I think that's probably accurate, but I think in reality it's easier to kind of grasp it than it is to practice it.
Yeah, but I think that's
being in the present.
Absolutely, but that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of anxiety does play out about your fears.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your fears? What is around the corner? The unknown. And I have definitely started to live a lifestyle where I embrace the future now, embrace what's coming based on the decisions I've made. Yeah. Whereas before I would worry about them. So it definitely rings true.
Last question's a big one, Shaun.
Okay.
If you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
If I could change anything in the world, I think inequality is such a big problem in the world. I mean, this does sound cliche, but I've seen it so much in different levels. Whether that's been, I've told you before that I spend a lot of time in Brazil, and inequality there is a huge issue with poverty. It's a different level to what we have here, but at the same time I grew up in a poorer part of Edinburgh, and I saw the inequality there as well. Like, a lot of people suffered, and it might not be the same as in a developing country, but inequality is important here. It's important in London. It's important in Europe. It's important in developing countries as well. And I think inequality is something we should all try and come together and work out how to alleviate.
Yeah, good answer. Good note to finish on.
Yeah.
Shaun, it's been brilliant speaking to you. You have an incredibly fascinating story. I think that the path that you're on is absolutely inspirational, and you know, I hope you see it through, and I look forward to seeing your silver play button when you get it.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been really fun to come here and visit your amazing space. And
Thank you so much.
hopefully once we can do some podcasts together in the future. And,
100%, I'd love to.
do some videos around town, because like
Definitely.
got such a beautiful city here in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Let's get out there and do some stuff.
Excellent. Shaun, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again.
Cheers.